Hi, my beautiful friends. I hope you're all having a great day. I did film an intro for this video already where I chatted with you and brought you up to speed on some things in my life, but I'm deciding to refilm the intro because it got long. This video got really long, and I want you to be able to stay through the end because I feel like I got better as I went. I got a little more comfortable talking to you and shared more. So I am just going to tell you what this video is about. I do get some questions about my skincare because, as you know, I'm 55 years old, and people want to know what I do. Any plastic surgery? Did I do any procedures, Botox, fillers, things like that? Did I do laser treatments? And you want to know what products I use because I often talk about skincare mixed in with other videos, so I don't have like those standalone daytime skincare routine, nighttime skincare routine currently, and I will make those because I feel like I need to make those videos just to have out there to refer people to if they're curious what I'm using right now, because what I'm using right now has not really changed at all in quite a while, and I don't foresee it changing. So I will do that. But today I'm going to talk about what I think are the main things that have helped my skin age fairly well, even though I'm 55 years old. And I haven't done a ton of procedures, you know, at the plastic surgeon or anything like that. And I've never done any like surgery. So I will tell you what I have done, and I will tell you what I think has helped the very most, and bring you through like my decades and briefly go over what I've used and what I think has been the biggest help to me. I hope you'll stay through the whole video because I don't know, I really felt like I spoke from the heart a little more than normal. So let's just jump in and get started. This video, I am going to take you in the way back machine to the 1980s when I was a teenager, and when I was 18 years old, there at the very end of my teenage years, my mom had seen a commercial, or not a commercial, it was like a new, and like the Today Show, the hosts were talking about Tretinoin, this new medication that was used for one thing, but they discovered that it decreased wrinkles on your skin, and women were experiencing smoothing out of their wrinkles, lessening of their deep wrinkles, and just an overall radiance in their skin. And it was originally prescribed to people who suffered with acne. So it is like an acne medication, but it had this other thing that people noticed that it did. So my mom was very curious about it, and I had very, very oily skin in the 80s. When I was a teenager, when I got to be like 14 years old, my skin was incredibly oily. It was so oily that I remember one time getting on the school bus, and one of the girls on the bus said, "Why is your face wet?" Like, that's how oily my skin was. That was so humiliating. I remember carrying around this product that L'Oreal made. I remember it came in a white bottle, and it was like a powder and a liquid together, and you shook it up, and then you'd blot it on your skin, and it would somehow, I guess it was like the equivalent of today's oil blotting sheets. I didn't know about those or if they even made those then, but this product worked like that, except you could only get it in like this large size. So I would carry it in my school bag and use it throughout my day, blotting my skin. And I had really oily skin all the way until like maybe 24. So for like 10 years, I had this very, very oily skin. It was acne prone, but I never really struggled with like cystic acne or anything like that. Rather, I just get like one big pimple or big pimples here and there. I definitely broke out. So my mom and I looked into Tretinoin, and I used it for the acne and hopefully controlling some oil and helping my skin in that way. And I don't remember what percentage it was. It comes in like 0.25, 0.05, or 0.01. And I started probably with the mid-range, the 5. And so anyways, I had a big tube of it, and I used it faithfully. And because my skin was so oily, I never really experienced the flaking and dry skin that people experience when they first start Tretinoin. And I used it, I believe, every day. But I do remember that I was told to use sun protection. And before that, I never really used sun protection. I used like my makeup or my foundation that I started wearing when I was about 14 years old too. I started applying makeup makeup to my skin in my teens. And I think there was some sun protection in that because I never really got a sunburn or a lot of color on my skin, but that's what I did. And so I did get some sun protection, some SPF. I think it was a mineral SPF because it was like a thick white consistency and I would really have to rub it into my skin. I bet that also countered some of the effects of the drying aspect of Retin-A because it was so creamy and rich. But nonetheless, it worked and it helped my skin not break out. I don't think it did a ton for the oil control, but as I got older and older, that started to diminish anyways. But my skin always seemed different from my friends in that it was extremely oily, not just a little bit, extremely, and very pale, and I didn't tan in the sun. And this was during the 80s, so it made me feel different. I just wanted to blend in with my friends. I remember we would go out at night to like these teen juice bars. They didn't serve alcohol, but teenagers could go there on like a Sunday night and we'd dance to all the latest songs that we loved, like Prince and all the 80s music. But we would love to do that. And I would go into the bathroom with my friends, and then we'd all stand in the mirror because of course, every time you went to the bathroom, you needed to touch up your powder or your makeup in some way. And I remember just feeling that I really stood out with my pale skin. And they didn't make bronzers back then, at least not that I knew of. So I couldn't even use a bronzer. It was probably a good thing because if I had access to a bronzer, I probably would have just overused it to make myself look like I had a deeper skin tone because I really wished that I did at that time. But so that was what I did for my makeup. I remember though, I did have a blush from CoverGirl. It was in there like the really cheap little compact, and it was sort of like a color I wouldn't necessarily choose now. It was like a very muted kind of nude color, a little rosy nude. And I loved that for adding color on my skin. And I wore that for years, probably until I was in my 20s. I loved it so much. I just bought it again and again and again. So anyways, that was my skincare in my teens. Late teens, I started to use Tretinoin religiously, and I started using sunblock faithfully as well. But I didn't really use too many other products. Before that, I probably tried like Physoderm and Noxzema and all those things that teenage girls, that was marketed to teenage girls in those days, but nothing like on a real regular basis that I can recall. So that was my teens. Then in my 20s, I graduated nursing school and I started having a little more money to spend on my skincare. And I remember I first purchased the Clinique 3-Step, the soap to clean your skin or cleanser. Then they had the toner and the moisturizer, and it was just the 3 steps. And I used that for years and years as well, but I continued to use my Tretinoin. So I used Tretinoin my late teens all the way through my late 20s when I was 28 and had my first daughter. And I stopped using Tretinoin when I found out I was pregnant because I read and they weren't sure if it would get in breast milk or affect my baby if I used it, so I stopped using it. And then I went back on my Tretinoin during that time when I was trying for my first son. And then when I got pregnant with him, of course I stopped. And then I never went back on it because I got pregnant with my next son while I was nursing my first son. So I went right back into another pregnancy while I was nursing my first son. So no Tretinoin there. When I got to be about 38 and I weaned my last son from breastfeeding, then I started back on my Tretinoin, and I used it faithfully throughout my 40s. But then I started finding YouTube at about 44 or 45, and I started watching Beauty by Anne-Marie and Melissa 55. And so with Beauty by Anne-Marie, she talked about Aven products a lot. I started using some Aven, and I think I found their retinaldehyde then, which I've talked to you about on my channel. It's like Retin-A, except it takes your body 2 conversion steps to convert retinaldehyde to the active form retinoic acid that can be used by your skin. It will do the exact same thing as Tretinoin, but it's a little bit slower, and don't have the like side effects, which I did start having side effects, even though I could use Tretinoin when my skin was younger and oilier without moisturizing very much. The oil in my skin was protecting my skin and keeping my barrier intact. But when I got into my 40s, that seemed to no longer be the case. So I had to start trying other things. So I started trying the Aven retinaldehyde, which I loved. And then I went to like using my Tretinoin just like once or twice a week. And what it would do is give me like a mini peel. And then on the days I wasn't using it, I would use the retinaldehyde. And that was throughout like my late 40s. Now I'm 55. So during that time, like that maybe 8-year period, I've gone back and forth with Tretinoin, using it more as like a skincare treatment than an everyday skincare product. And I've mentioned before, I still use it, but I use it more to like just give my skin like a little micro exfoliation. So I'll use it 1 or 2 nights in a row and my skin will start to peel a little bit and flake. And then it kind of reveals that nicer skin underneath. But I do use either the Aven retinaldehyde, it's called Aven Retinol, and it's the 0.5. It comes in 2 strengths, 0.5 or 0.1. I use the 0.5 because it seems to work effectively on my skin. I think because I've used Tretinoin, the pure form, all these years, that I never got like the problems that I need to undo. So I didn't have to go like ease myself into using the fullest strength of Retin-A, and suddenly, because if you start using Retin-A later in life, you will go through what people call the Retin-A uglies, where you start using it and you have to build up to using it every day if that's what you'd like to do. And you will have a lot of peeling and your skin will go through this kind of angry period, maybe purging a little bit and just acting up. But I never really had to go through that because I've always used it. So I think that's why. So now what I use is the Aven Retinol, and I use the 0.5, and I use it 3-4 times a week, or I use cacao oil. And I've been really enjoying the cacao oil lately, which is a natural form of vitamin A, and it has the most vitamin A in it than other oils, even more than rosehip seed oil. And it has linoleic acid in it too, which is really good for our skin barrier. So I've been really enjoying that. So I'm kind of going back and forth between those two, and like maybe every 7 to 10 days, I put Retin-A on my skin one night and get that micro exfoliation. And it's just a tiny little peel. My skin doesn't get too angry with it, but I absolutely cannot use it every day anymore. If I try, my skin will get really, really dry, and I just don't want to go through it, and I don't feel that I need to. I'm not feeling like I need to really do that. When I was in my teens, just a step back, or maybe my early 20s, I was using a lot of SPF on my skin because I was using the Tretinoin on my face, but I neglected my neck and my chest because they weren't oily and they didn't break out. So they would stay very pale in the summertime. I would cover them with sunblock too. But one time, I'll never forget, I've shared the story before, it's kind of hard to share, it's embarrassing, but my boyfriend at the time had like a friend who was not nice. He was not a nice guy at all. Just really not a nice guy universally. He was really misogynistic, rude to women, used women. He was part of the friend group and not super close to the boyfriend I had at the time, but he was around and he wasn't nice. But I remember he used to always make fun of my pale skin, which I was already very sensitive about. Isn't that funny how people like that know what your weaknesses or sensitivities are, and they know how to latch onto them? So one time I was hanging out with my boyfriend, and he was waiting for my boyfriend's brother to go do something, and he came into the room and he started pointing out my very pale skin. And I don't remember all what he was saying, but I remember it made me very unhappy. And so it was summertime, and the next day or two I laid out in the sun. And I didn't leave my skin on my face unprotected, but because I knew I could use blush and stuff, but my chest got so incredibly burned. I was burned to a crisp, like bright, angry red, peeling and peeling and peeling. It was horrible. And I think I did a lot of damage to my skin just in those couple of days. And then, as what usually happens when you're dealing with a bully, I was hanging around with my boyfriend. That guy was around and he's like, oh, I see you've gotten some sun, a little too much, or was pointing that out. And I was like, oh, now he knows that I went and got sun because he was bullying me, and it makes me look even weaker. It was just horrible. I was just not secure in myself in those days. But man, do I wish that I could like be me now in that 18-year-old body and tell him exactly what I think, because I'd be much more brave and much more candid instead of just being like, you know, and feeling sad. When you're that age, it's really tough. It's just really tough. But anyways, I got through it, but I did a lot of damage on my chest and it's noticeable. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me turn off the ring light. The ring light is so forgiving. As you can see, my eyes aren't as bright blue, and you can see like more, you know, you could see like I've got some like little bit of darkness there. Anyway, I like for you guys to be able to see. I like filming in my car too because it's natural light. I have my blind closed. Let me open it. And my chest, I hope you can see. I think it's hard to see, but I've got like some sun damage here on my neck, and here on my neck is kind of funny. This happened, it's all red right here. I thought it was my retin-A, but I realized it's not. We went on spring break a few years ago to Alabama. I'm gonna put this back on. I think you guys all have seen. Oh, but can you see my freckles on my shoulders? I don't have them so bad on my arms, but I do from my childhood. I've got like really bad, like, hyperpigmentation on my shoulders. I think it's important for you guys to see this because, you know, I don't want you to be under any illusions of what my skin really looks like. So we were on vacation in Alabama a couple years ago, and we rented some e-bikes and we were riding them all around. And that day, I know I had sunblock on, but maybe not enough. And I have like this here. And what's interesting is that the part that doesn't look to be damaged or red is from where my chin would shadow there. I remember I had a hat on and off, I had glasses on. I remember coming back and I would joke because we saw a lot of armadillos, and armadillos can carry leprosy, which I didn't really know, but I didn't touch them. But I kept joking with my family that it was those armadillos that had gotten leprosy. And we tried to figure it out for a while, and like my dermatologist even gave me an antifungal cream. Maybe I should try that again, but that was a couple years ago, and if it was a fungus, I think something would be different. Anyways, I should get it looked at again, but it doesn't bother me. I know it's there, and I know people can see it, but I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. Some things about aging don't bother me. Like, I know I'm gonna get fine lines and wrinkles. I know that I'm gonna get older. I don't want to look like I'm 20 or even in my 30s, like a young person anymore. I wanna look my age, but I wanna look good for my age. I wanna age with my husband, you know what I mean? Like, I don't wanna fight it tooth and nail and have him age naturally, and then have him look like a little old man someday, and I'm like got the, you know, all the cosmetic surgery and, you know, everything I can do to fight it. I just feel like I can do the best I can with my diet and my skincare and, you know, a few cosmetic things, which I'm going to tell you what I've done, everything I've ever done. I've never done lasers. I've never done a laser procedure. I've never done even facials on a regular basis. I think I've only had a few in my life, maybe 3, but I haven't had one in like maybe 20 years, 15 years. But what I have done consistently is 25 units of Botox in my 11s right here. One here, 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 here. And I've gone every 6 months. For a while, a couple of years ago, I bumped it up because I thought I needed to, But then I decided I didn't want to spend the money, so I started spacing it out again, and it's fine. And I've done that since I was in my early 40s, and now I'm 55, and I still can scrunch, see? But look, you can see my wrinkles here. Let's turn this off again. See, you can see, I do have a spot in my forehead right here where I fell off a ladder while painting a room, and I fell into a bookshelf, and I got a huge goose egg. I got knocked out for a second, and it started bleeding. I was so dazed and confused that I did think to call 911. I called 911. I didn't realize, this is like 10 years ago when I first moved into this house. I was painting our utility room, and I called 911, and they came. And then I felt kind of bad, but I did have blood kind of running down my face. And they came in, and what they focused on, which is probably a good thing, is someone is in the house that hurt me. Even though my ladder was in the utility room, my paint, they asked if they could walk around the house and look around, and I was fine. I was a little bit dazed and confused, but I had a concussion. And they did walk around the house and check, you know, and I thought, oh, well, that's kind of nice, but also kind of like, my husband is like the sweetest guy in the world. He would never hit me, but whatever. I'm glad they did their job. They wanted to take me into the ER, and my sons were getting home from elementary school. I had to pick them up, and I didn't want to go, so I had my neighbor pick them up for me, and then she dropped them off and stayed with me for a while, and I was just fine. But a few years later, I started talking to my plastic surgeon lady who does the injections here, and she said, like, one brow, as you can see, is flat, and one brow is arched more. I think it's this one, and this one's a little more flat. And even when the Botox is worn off, they will stay that way because the muscle here was damaged, and I can't lift this brow as high as this one. It's just weird. I thought it was the Botox, so I kept asking her to tweak certain things. And then finally, one day she said, did you ever hit your head? And I'm like, no. And then a few seconds later, I'm like, yes, I did. I had a concussion, and it was actually right in that spot. So it's the weirdest thing. So anyways, that's what happened. This is really chatty. I'm sorry, guys. But so back to my skincare. So I watched Beauty by Anne Marie, and I tried a lot of the products that she was trying. Like, I tried something called Tie-Dye. It was awful. It gave me milia. I tried something called Filarina, I can't remember what it was. It's F-I-L. If you watch Beauty by Anne Marie, it's back like in one of her videos. And it's a cream for under your eye, and it fills in fine lines and wrinkles. And that was just like something that I didn't enjoy. I didn't like it. I stopped using it. I didn't really notice a big difference. That was that. But the other thing is, when I watched Melissa 55, you all know who she is. She's stunning. She's 69 years old, doesn't do any procedures. She uses the Obagi system, and she uses Retin-A. And I bought the Obagi system and tried to do exactly what she does, because she does her skincare videos, which I love to watch. Even though I don't use the same skincare as her, I still love to watch them. And I've tried the Obagi system with my Tretinoin, and it made my skin so angry, so red. My skin is just too sensitive for it. And I tried a couple different times. Like, I had the products, tried, they didn't work, tried them again, same thing, tried again. And now I still have the Expoderm that you can mix, or is it the blender? You can mix with your Retin-A, and sometimes I still use it. It doesn't smell off, but I bet I need to just get rid of it. So that didn't work for me, but I wanted it to so badly. I still want it to. Like, I'm still going, I should try again. It's just because it works so well for her, and she looks amazing, that I really want it to work for me too, but it doesn't. So saying that, all of that to say that what I do might not work for you either. Our skin is also different. And like I said, I've always felt like my skin has been different than everybody else's. When I was younger, you know, my skin tone, my skin not ever tanning, being very, very oily. But I think the oily skin back then that I disliked so much ended up being a blessing to me because it got me using Tretinoin when I was very, very young, and it got me protecting my skin on a very, very regular basis. And that has really helped. So I think that my skin is fairly tight still and nice in my 50s. I do, like I said, I have signs of aging. Let's show you the crow's feet. So I do have the crow's feet, and I do also have like some wrinkles kind of like right here. They're very, 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 very fine. And I attribute that to Tretinoin use. You know, I just consistently use it, or the Aven or the cacao oil, but I'm always putting vitamin A derivatives and sun protection on my skin. And when I was in my 40s and taking my sons to the pool, my daughters too, when they were little, my friends know if they are meeting me there, find the shade. They all are willing to take one for the team that day. My beautiful tanned skin friends who love getting a beautiful tan, and they all look beautiful. So like the sun damage, I don't know, it never has caught up with them. I don't know how they got away with that, but they sit in they would sit in the shade with me, or sit me under an umbrella with all my SPF and hat and all that on, and then they would sit like beside me, but in the sun if they want the sun. I love the way the sun feels on my skin. I love being out in the sun. I love the sun so much. So I do put on my sunblock religiously on my arms, on my hands, on my back, on my shoulders, definitely on my face and any exposed areas, so that I can sit for a little bit in the sun. And nothing's foolproof. Of course, some of those rays will still get in, you know, so, but it's a sacrifice. I'm not gonna live forever anyways, and I wouldn't wanna live my life never feeling the sun on my body, because it feels so good. I just like going outside and like a sunflower and just like raising my head to the sun and going, ah, you know, it just feels wonderful. So that's what I do. You know, I definitely like to be outside. I like to be on my bike. I like hiking with my family. I like walking outdoors. So that's what I do. I thought I heard someone come in. Anyways, so that's my journey through my 40s. Okay, so after the Abaji thing, I am gonna take a few years back. On my 40th birthday, some girlfriends of mine and I decided to go to Nordstrom and get makeovers. So we did, and we got our makeup done. And when I was there, we were chatting with the ladies, and of course they're always trying to sell you more products, and they were saying, oh, do you use a serum on your skin? What serum do you use on your skin? And I never used a serum on my skin that I knew of. Like when I used Clinique, it included those steps, those 3 steps, but not a serum. And so I said, no, I don't use a serum. They're like, oh, you don't use a serum? Oh my gosh. And so they started talking to me about serums, and the Lancome lady sold me on some Genifique. And if you watch me, you know I love Genifique. I still use it to this day. It is my favorite serum. It is the one expensive skincare product that I still buy all the time. I buy it at Christmas time when they have the holiday box. So in that holiday box, it will also include makeup and skincare, and I love Lancome makeup as well. So I get the Lancome makeup and I get the Genifique, and it comes with a Genifique serum and an eye cream, and then they usually include another type of their skincare. And I like all the Lancome skincare that I've tried. I don't buy all of it regularly. I just make sure I have my Genifique and the Genifique eye product. And I get that at Christmas time in the holiday box, and then I repurchase it around Mother's Day when they have the Mother's Day sales, because they usually have great deals on their skincare then too. So I never pay the full price. If I'm running low on it, I just wait for a 30% off sale, but I just keep it going like year round, utilizing the Lancome sale. That's my 40s, and now my 50s, everything is very simplified. The rest of my skincare is from the drugstore. I like the La Roche-Posay SPFs. I can do a summer skin video showing you my self tanners and my skincare, everything about my body in the summer. If you're interested, let me know. But I love the sunblocks from La Roche-Posay. I've been using them for the past couple of years and I plan to stick with them. I use the Aven Retinol, the retinaldehyde 0.5. That's also from the drugstore. And I love CeraVe, and I love Cetaphil from the drugstore, both affordable. And then I love The Ordinary. So I do kind of like a concoction of different things at different times, depending on what my skin looks like. And so that's why I hesitate to do a skincare daytime routine and nighttime routine. My daytime routine is always the same, but my nighttime routine is when I pull out my actives and address issues. So if I'm having some like dark spots that I'm noticing, freckles getting darker, I have a special product that I use. Actually, that's another serum that I use from Kiehl's, and it's their dark spot correcting serum, I think. I got hooked on that when Sephora was giving it away for 100 points, little ones, and I used 500 points and had 5 of them, and they got me through like 8 months, 9 months, and then I bought the little bottle of it. So whenever I notice my freckles getting darker, especially like in the fall time when I want to undo sun damage from the summer, because I notice freckles getting darker and maybe starting to connect and become one big freckle, I'll use that Kiehl's product for that, and that works really. I'm always addressing my skin. I'm always at the end of the day kind of looking at it in a magnifying mirror and addressing whatever is concerning me at that time. Because if I don't do that, I've noticed things will sneak up on me. Like I'll be like, oh, when did those dark spots look like they started to connect? Or when did that wrinkle show up? Like I've got a little wrinkle right here. It's kind of like a dimple, but it's starting to get a wrinkle there. I'm like, when did that show up? So if you go periods of time without really addressing what's going on, a lot of things might go on and you might not know it. And then all of a sudden you've got it, you're like, oh, my skin. And then you decide you want to go for a peel, a laser peel or a laser treatment or something like that. And so what I try to do is address the issues as they come and not have to go down that road later. And so taking another step back, the only other cosmetic thing I've ever done is 3 years ago, for the very first time, I had half a syringe of Volbella from Juvederm injected right here in my top lip, just like the tiniest bit. And so nobody even really noticed, but what I did notice is that my lips that started to appear a little bit thinner as I'm aging filled up again, but they just look like my lips and never really changed it. I did make a video on that too. I can link that below. I showed the whole process of the bruising and stuff afterward. And then a year later, I decided to go for a touch-up. So that was in 2022. And I got another half syringe, just kind of divided equally. And then what was extra, because I didn't need as much because it stayed on board, I got a little bit injected into the bottom, but you cannot tell at all. Nobody notices it. And I don't even really notice it because I think it was just a couple of drops. And then I went back to get my Botox, the 25 units of Botox, and I thought I would need a touch-up, but I decided I do not need a touch-up. It has gone down a tiny bit, but I feel like if I got a touch-up, it would become overfilled, and they might not look like my lips anymore. Like they might start, because what happens, I've noticed to other people, is that your lip fills out, and that's why you get the duck lips. Because instead of just being like your lips, but kind of still, like they do, lips naturally kind of stick out a little bit from your skin. But I notice that people who have a lot of filler, they stick out and then they kind of get that kind of almost worm look, or you lose the shape of your lip. One thing I told the injector when I got that, and she's someone I trusted, she's the only person who's ever given me Botox in like the whole, like, I don't know, 13 years since I've gotten that 25 units. I go to the same place. I've had the plastic surgeon herself or her nurse practitioner, but nobody else ever. And so I brought in pictures and I said, I don't want to lose my Cupid's bow, because I feel like when you lose the Cupid's bow, your lips don't look like your lips anymore. Because if you notice, if you look at a lot of Hollywood actresses and people who get, Kardashians come to mind, even though they're not actresses, people who do filler, their lips all start to look the same. They lose the Cupid's bow and everything kind of puffs up in a round way and underneath too. And so they have these cushy lips, but nothing looks different between each person. And I've concluded it's because the peaks here in the Cupid's bow go away and you lose that. So when I went, I said, I do not want to lose my Cupid's bow or these peaks right here. And she agreed. She doesn't even do any injections on herself, and I don't think her nurse practitioner does either. So that should tell you something. She's very natural and she's beautiful. And I do think that I will probably eventually just say, you know, I've done this and I don't need to do it anymore, because I'm noticing that the older I get, the more secure I'm getting in myself. Like I said, I want to age with my friends and family. I want to age with my husband. And I want to age with my girlfriends who don't do a lot of plastic surgery. I don't live in Hollywood. So we all here in the Midwest do a few things here and there, but for the most part, everybody just looks very natural. There's a very few people that I know that kind of look like they belong in Hollywood, and we all kind of, you know, someone will say, wow, her lips, and we'll just kind of like be like, oh yeah, looks like she got a little bit of filler, you know, like we all know. So I don't want that to be me. And I don't want to white knuckle aging. I don't want to go through aging, grasping and white knuckling through the process, you know? I mean, I think an older face is still a beautiful face, as long as it looks healthy. And so this video is getting way too long. So there are a few tips that I would share, and I've talked about them before. Keeping your teeth nice and white and keeping your dental care up, because if your teeth look nice, it's youthful. And even if you don't have your teeth and you have implants or a bridge or dentures, great. Just keep them looking healthy. Keep it all healthy. So that, you know, whatever. I feel like that, it makes people look beautiful. And I feel like radiant skin always looks beautiful, even if it's got some sun damage, even if it's wrinkled. If it has a little bit of a glow to it, it's still beautiful. And I feel like keeping your weight consistent is important, because the older we get and we lose that collagen and elastin, our skin kind of can shrivel a little bit, like a balloon that's deflated, and then it's hard to get that back. You know, I think Retin-A can help. I think laser treatments can help, but I don't know, and I don't know what you can do, you know, beyond that. To like correct a lot of sagging. So I'm not the person to talk about for that. Because I do try to keep my weight very consistent so that doesn't happen. Because gosh, you see these people using Ozempic, and I see people like around me using it too, and that kind of deflated balloon look is real. And that's all I can really think of. I'm sure if you like this video, I can think of more things. This is really chatty. I hope you're all still here. If you are, thank you. Let me know what your tried and true skincare is. If you've got like one thing that you swear helped. If I had one thing, I would say the Tretinoin, but I'd have to say two. The Tretinoin and the sunblock. Those are the two things that I am so thankful. I started young, but it's never too late for those two things. So thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you all have a blessed and beautiful day. I'll see you soon.